Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Funky Bunch at Sunday Brunch Podcast. It's a wonderful 9 a.m. and my coffee is too hot to drink, so unfortunately, I'm making do on just the shower right now to stay awake. But it's not the worst thing in the world. So before we jump into anything, let's do the quick plugs. We stream this live every Sunday at 9 a.m. at twitch.tv/DJ_funky_fresh. I also post the VOD on YouTube as soon as it's out, which should go up at about 11 a.m. at youtube.com/DJFunkyFreshGaming. And of course, this goes up on Spotify. Just search for Funky Bunch at Sunday Brunch Podcast or DJ Funky Fresh, both of which will get you there. Or check out the links below if you're on Twitch or YouTube or SoundCloud. So, yeah, I guess that's that. Shall we jump into today's topic? If y'all remember, we have already taken care of looking at several different game series. We've done the Dragon Warrior Monsters. We've done The Legend of Zelda. We've done Animal Crossing. Let's jump into the Dragon Quest series now, shouldn't we? We'll do Dragon Quest and the couple of spin-offs we have from it. Because obviously Dragon Quest is a huge part of my past and I absolutely love it. So, let's start with the OG original game, Dragon Quest 1. However, if you look for it, it was referred to as Dragon Warrior because they did not want to infringe on the trademark of the pen and paper game Dragon Quest. Some fun facts about this is that the Japanese version did not have a save file system. Instead, they had a password system. In that it was basically the game moved forward in stages. So you got a password based upon what stage you were in. As in, you defeated this boss and you're this level, here's your password. You can start again like this. In this, you have one character, your main character, who must travel the world on a quest to defeat the Dragon Lord. The hero can equip various weapons and armors, and you battle enemy monsters one-on-one in a turn-based system. So you only fought one monster at a time. You did not fight multiple monsters. It was just one-on-one. Obviously, you leveled up and things. So, some fun facts about the game. The algorithm that determined your stat improvement was based entirely upon your name. So, whatever name you gave your character, which was about 4 characters long, determined if you'd have more strength, more agility, or more MP. There are no vehicles. You only can travel the world on foot. As I said, enemies attack the hero one-on-one, never in groups. So if you hit enemy A will hit you back, but enemy B and C will not. I don't even remember if multiple monsters could show up on the screen, but it was just one-on-one. Any weapons, armors, or shield that you automatically acquired in the game, it would automatically replace your previous items. This game originally came out in 1986. That was when the original Dragon Quest came out. But, here's a real fun quest. Although there was never a lawsuit. The game's English title was, and maybe still is, in violation of copyright with the book titled Dragon Quest by Anne McCaffrey, which was copyrighted in 1971 and written for the Pern book series. I love that book series. The Dragon Riders of Perth. Or Pern. Wait, maybe I'm thinking of a different book. And McCaffrey. Sorry, I gotta look. No, I'm thinking of a different one, aren't I? Dragon Riders of... No? No, it's Dragon Riders of Pern. This is the book I thought it was. It's a good book. Fun. Fun. Anyway, yeah. Here's a fun little fact. So, Erdrick's sword. Okay, so the first 3 Dragon Quests are all connected together. They're referred to as the Erdrick trilogy. And Erdrick is the legendary hero who saved the world before. And you are his descendant. So, Erdrick is obviously a hero. And he's a legacy. But, Erdrick's sword is used during an optional boss fight in Final Fantasy XII, and is also the prize for winning that battle. This marked the first time the mix of Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest has happened. So, that's fun. I want to know where it was in FF12. But, things tend to happen. And, okay, that's why. It's referred to as the Worm Hero. And, where did you get it? Huh. I don't know how you can get it. But, yeah, I don't really know. But yeah, that is the original Dragon Quest game. Moving on to the second one, Dragon Quest II, Luminaries of the Legendary Line. This one came out in 1987. Like, these are games older than me, and it's just absolutely wild if you think about it. Like, this series has been going on since, what was that, 86, did I say? Yeah. Think about it, 86, and the latest entry for the Dragon Quest series came out in 2018. This thing is like... Obviously, this game is 34 years old, and just continuing on. It's just absolutely wild. Let's see. So, what Dragon Quest II did was it expanded the world. This world became 256 tiles by 256 instead of the original, which had a 100 by 100. It also introduced a wider variety of spells and items because it was able to hold more and they kind of knew what they were doing. They also started implementing the battle status ailments, which was embodied by the new Bubble Slime foe. So essentially you could be poisoned and, well, poison does a lot now, doesn't it? So walking around, you would take damage and do damage within battle. So it became a new thing you had to handle. However, due to the size, the limited ROM space in the NES, the detailed battle backgrounds that the first game had was replaced with a more black background in order to make room for the increased number of monster sprites in the game, which, in my opinion, is fair. In another expansion, they actually added multiple heroes and enemies in each battle. So each of the different characters you could have would have a well-defined range of abilities and weaknesses, which was the basis for later on, in which you would have characters and vocations that would suit later. For instance, martial artist, mage, priest. So you'd probably have like a spellcaster who excelled in all kinds of spells but was weaker to physical. Then you'd have like a martial artist who was purely physical but very weak to magic. And then you'd have, a swordsman who was all rounded but not like excelling in any one sort of location. And obviously, they had multiple monster encounters where they added more than just that one-on-one fight. So more going on at one time, which is a nice addition, obviously. They had party dynamics, extended strategies, and shuffling through equipment to suit each specific encounter, which all began in 1987. In Dragon Quest II, Luminaries of the Legendary Line. They also introduced battle spells that did more than just disable foes and inflict or restore damage. This introduced the concept of influencing stats through Kabuff and Kasap. Kabuff buffing your own defense, increasing that, and Kasap reducing the enemy's defense. The theme of spending a turn buffing characters and weakening monsters became much more expanded in future titles, which became very important with combating monsters directly. This game also introduced the multiple save locations. In the first game, you could save with the king in one location only. You had to go back to that one spot to save and then travel out again. But remember, the world was 100 tiles by 100 tiles. It wasn't the largest. Kabuff is such a classic. But, So this obviously still has the to save. You have to find a king, a minister, or a wise man and talk to them to initiate the process. However, if you have the original Japanese version, they still had the password system instead of a battery backup. So, if you've ever played the Dragon Quest Starry Sentinel or whatever the mobile game was and participated in any of the like Dragon Quest 1, Dragon Quest 2, Dragon Quest 3 questing, you should recognize the characters. The Prince of Middenhall is your this is you. You're one of the classic. You are the classic warrior of the three luminaries. You have impressive physical stats. He can equip all weapons and armor, but he has no magical ability. Then you've got the Prince of Canuck. He cannot use a wide variety of weapons and armors, but he has a unique assortment of spells. But his magic is not as powerful as the third character. The third character is the Princess of Moonbrook, and she is the sorceress. She has very slim armor and weapon selections, but she is incredibly potent with the magic. So, and then of course your main enemy is Hargan the monster. And then we move on to the third of the classic and the trio, which is Dragon Quest III, The Seeds of Salvation. This is the final of the Erdrick trilogy. And you get to more of a common slash... what's the word I want to look for? More recognizable. So, Dragon Quest III takes place on a large world map reminiscent of our own in the distant past. Many areas are modeled after different cultures like Romario, Isis, Japan, and Persistence, or Rome, Egypt, Japan, and Native Americans, and are located in areas of the map roughly equivalent to their inspirations. And of course, there's also a hidden world that exists beneath the surface of the vast world. This game allowed for actual character customization. It featured a customizable party in which each character belongs to a certain vocation, as well as the first in which the player can determine the protagonist's gender. So this is the first one where you could have a male or female hero. And you recruited your party members by talking to Patty at the tavern. You should remember Patty. Patty was used in 9 to pick your characters and everything. And so you could choose your characters. I don't think you got to choose how they looked or anything, but you got to choose your characters as well as your vocations. I don't know how many vocations they had, but the choice of profession obviously greatly affected the character's stats and spells that they learned, and once they reached level 20, they could change their class at All Trades Abbey. This is also the first introduction of All Trades Abbey. They added several new statistics to the game. They added resilience, wisdom, and luck, and each statistic now became capped at 255. The amount of stat points gained with each level is pseudo-randomized, with range depending on the character's vocation. You could then change your marching order, allowing weak or injured characters to hide behind their companions and be less frequently targeted by monsters. In addition, characters can be banished in the middle of battle and be found again at Patty's party planning place. So usually in the game, the character in the first slot is most likely to be targeted by monsters, and the partners put in the back are less likely to be targeted. That's usually how it is supposed to be, but it never actually seems to work out that way. It always looks like, it's just pure random, but supposedly that's what it's supposed to do. They added several new spells, which brought the total number of spells to 60. Some of these were second and third tier spells of existing spell lines, spells that cause new effects in battle, and spells that facilitate effects on the overworld. So for instance, they added, I don't remember the Dragon Quest spells, mostly because I'm thinking of Final Fantasy right now, but for instance, you had Blizzard, Blizzara, and Blizzaga. It was 1, 2, and 3. Type of deal. As well as spells that do things on the overworld. You could have a spell called probably, I don't know if that's a spell they had, but there was Padfoot, which reduced your enemy encounters. They probably had Safe Passage, which is a spell that allows you to walk over damaged tiles without taking damage. So on the ground, there's different tiles that deal damage to the player characters if you walk over it. If you have Safe Passage, you could just walk right over top of it, and it would be fine. Let's see. Experience points were divided by the number of current party members, so a lone hero would gain experience faster than a full party of 4. They added several offensive spells that were now separated from each other in terms of resistance, meaning that an enemy immune to whoosh could still be damaged by crack. Right, that's what it is. Crack, crackle, and I don't remember. Elemental spells were divided into fire, with Sizz, Frizz, and Bang, ice, wind, and lightning. They also allowed for the ability for you to attack your own party members, which is useful for curing status effects like sleep and confusion. If you're asleep or confused, a physical attack has a tendency to knock you out of that status. And they had the hidden sage vocation within this game, which marked the first appearance of a class that could only be achieved if you combined the best features of two others and reached a certain benchmark with another. These would become more elaborated in the 6th and 7th games and beyond. Oh yeah. Now let's move on to some games you've actually seen me play with Dragon Quest IV Chapters of the Chosen. Yes. This game also began the Zenithian trilogy, in which 4, 5, and 6 all focused on Zenithia as the overarching theme. So this is the first of the series to not be related to Erdrick, but it is the first of a new trilogy revolving around the legend of a castle in the sky that watches over the world below. The world map is of comparable size to that of 3, but has no direct parallels to the real world. So 4 has a much more unique take to storytelling in that this game is character focused around the lives of the Chosen Ones prior to and during their quest to prevent the resurrection of the ruler of evil, Stark. The first 4 chapters of the story are about the hero's companions and their own challenges and hardships. While these travel with their own goals and dreams in the mind, they all eventually discover the conspiracy of Sorrow the Manslayer to drive the human race to extinction. So obviously, like I said, so it starts off with a prologue introducing the hero and everything else. Then we switch to chapter 1 with Ragnar, a soldier who needs to figure out why children have been disappearing. This is also the first introduction of a monster ally in that of Healy, the Heel Slime, though he later stopped showing up in the game. But it was the first time you had a heel or a monster ally. Chapter 2 focuses on Sarvena and her 2 allies, Kirill and Boria. And then you've got Torneko Talun for chapter 3, who is just a merchant who wants to become the best merchant in the world and sell everything. Chapter 4 is Maya and Mina, the fortune teller sisters. Well, the dancer and the fortune teller. And then chapter 5 looks once again at the hero, but brings together everybody. And of course, chapter 6, there's a 6th chapter, which is just the, post-epilogue, just extra stuff to go. So, So some new features that they added to this was artificial intelligence. A significant portion of the game's memory was dedicated to an intricate artificial intelligence that controls party members during the 5th chapter. The 5th chapter of the NES games, the player no longer can control any of the previous characters. Instead, you had to use the tactics menu to deliver a loose set of instructions. Normal, defensive, offensive, save MP, use no MP. Try out. The only character directly controlled is the hero. All chapters except chapter 2 also contain NPCs, which travel with the player but cannot be directly controlled. They act on their own, guided by the game's AI. So every chapter except for the 2nd chapter includes a non-chosen party member who will assist the group temporarily during their travels together. Each is tied to a story element of a chapter and reflect that section of the story's tone. And then a wagon was implemented to transport up to 8 party members at the same time, allowing for battle configuration to be arranged to suit any encounter at will. Certain dungeons would not allow for the wagon to enter that area, however. They introduced the mini medals into the game for players to gather to be exchanged for incredible equipment, and this was the first time they hid items in drawers, cabinets, and urns, as well as the chests. It can be anything from stat boosting seeds to just common items and small sums of gold. So, it is unexpected. Moving forward now to Dragon Quest V Hand of the Heavenly Bride. This is the 5th installment, as well as the 2nd of the Zenithian trilogy. This was the first in the series in which certain monsters from random encounters may offer to join the player's party. This differs from the first game in which, or the 4th game in which you had Healy the Heel Slime who joined you. That was an NPC and just kind of helped you because you were a warrior with absolutely no way of being able to heal yourself. But yeah, this one actually had random monsters who could join you as allies. Fun fact, on April 3rd, 2019, a trailer was released for Dragon Quest Your Story, a feature film based on Dragon Quest V. It is fully out, obviously. But if you really want to know, I forgot to tell you, Dragon Quest III came out in 1988, and Dragon Quest IV came out in 1990. Dragon Quest V came out in 1992. So Dragon Quest V is set centuries after the Zenithian hero defeated Sorrow the Manslayer. The game starts on a sea vessel with the hero and his father departing to go to Wheelbrook. The layout of the world is superficially similar to the layout of Dragon Quest IV, but with a new set of locations and considerable geographical alterations. Stairways to Zenithia and Castle Zenithia itself are the only surviving locations from the previous game, and they have fallen into ruin, are no longer connected. There are different mounts or encountered tables for each of the 3 eras. The quest takes the hero and his party to many exotic locations, such as a fairy village, a mansion made of ice, several caves, and even the depths of a volcano. The party eventually makes its way to the Castle Zenithia, the hallmark of each game of the Zenithia trilogy, and the final enemies reside in a dark world separate from the main map. So, the hero, this shows the hero in several different stages. So the hero starts off as a 6-year-old boy. He learns how to, handle himself and goes through that. Eventually, the death of Pancraz, your father, ends the first generation of the game, in which you become enslaved, and for 10 years you are forced to do hard labor. Second phase starts then. At the age of 16, you go until you get married and have a child, at which point you get another time jump. And then phase 3 is you and your kids going to go save your wife and defeat the evil. The other important characters are Pancraz, your father. There's Bianca Whitaker, an old friend and potential wife. Nera Briscoletti, a potential wife, and Deborah Briscoletti, a potential wife. So some new features. So instead of dividing the game into chapters focusing on several characters, this one just followed the life of one person from childhood to adulthood to parenthood, obviously. Each separate generation showed the world aging, and obviously you still travel around and everything. So this had the inclusion of the monster recruitment system. Certain monsters may elect to join the player's party after being defeated in battle. These monsters then behave as typical player characters who can level up, use equipment, receive orders, tactics, and battles, and will often have abilities and resistances unavailable to human characters. This adds a great deal of replayability because it allows for so many different possible player party configurations. In the original Super Famicom version, only 42 monsters were recruitable, and 70 was the limit of how many you could keep in total. And the DS and mobile phone versions, those limits were raised to 72 possible recruits and 80 respective slots. Some nice fun things. This game was the first to use katakana and numbers to name characters. Earlier 8-bit only allowed the use of hiragana, which I don't know what that means. Message windows could now display kanji. This significantly expanded the amount of text that could be stored to a cartridge without eating up space, save for music, graphics, and so forth. Because the original advertisement stated that this game had as much text as a novel. Fun fact. The search, talk, and open commands can be issued now by a single button press instead of opening up the menu to do each of the individual things. They allowed for smoother animations by allowing characters to only move half a block tile at a time as opposed to a full block. And now pots, barrels, and similar objects can now be searched. But this also means that they sometimes can contain monsters laying in wait. And you can just say that that would be an unexpected thing. Okay, that makes sense. They are two of the Japanese alphabets. Well, thank you. Obviously, they refined more battles, made things more balanced. They improved the party AI. They now created a base defensive stat called Resilience, which before the base defense was calculated through your agility. And they added in the boomerang and whip, allowing you to attack groups of enemies as opposed to just individual. And then they altered things like Kabuff now only improves your defense by 25% instead of 50%. So, the combat screens now had animated background images. And the images depend on the local terrain and time of day. So, yeah. That is 5. Now let's move on to 6th, the last of the Zenithia trilogy. This is Dragon Quest VI, Realms of Revelation. Like every other Dragon Quest game, this setting is very medieval, complete with castles, knights, and magic. The main world is divided into the lower world and upper world, each with a separate but similar map. Let's see. Right, yeah. So, it's not necessarily a Japanese alphabet. It's not like the right word to use for it, but it's kind of similar, like a writing system. Yeah, I understand. No worries. So yeah, this was split up into an upper world and a lower world, which is the lower world is the real world and the upper world is the dream world. So if something can't be found in the real world or can't be accessed in the real world, you might be able to get there through the dream world, and you kind of just flip between the two and everything. Let's see. You had a bunch of different characters in this one. You obviously had the hero. You had Carver, the martial artist, Millie, the I guess kind of healer. You had Ashlyn, the mage, Devin, the priest, Terry, the swordsman, Amos, the swordsman who transforms into a dragon, and Lizzie, the dragon. So they marketed as a main selling point for this game was player chosen vocations returned. Lizzie the lizard, actually, it's a lizard. It's a dragon that carries an axe. But this marked the return of the vocation system. As you remember, we had vocations in the 3rd game. However, the 4th and the 5th game did not have vocations. So they once again brought it back. So once you can reach All Trades Abbey, you have the option of becoming one of 9 base vocations. You increased your vocation by doing things. And then, of course, if the character masters 2 or 3 occupations by increasing to the max of 8, they could upgrade to a second tier vocation that far exceeds the sum of their parts. So, for instance, mastering the warrior and martial artist vocation allowed you to become a gladiator. So, the initial the vocations that they had that allowed you to do were warrior, martial artist, mage, priest, dancer, thief, monster, master, merchant, and gadabout. So, those were all the initial base ones. You could then get the advanced vocations by combining several different ones together. You had the gladiator, armamentalist, paladin, sage, luminary, ranger, and hero. And then finally, there were 2 hidden classes. There was the dragon class and the liquid metal slime class. So the dragon class yields the strongest breath skills and significantly increases your health, strength, and resilience at the cost of every other stat. And then, of course, the liquid metal slime is referred to as the high risk, high reward class because it cut your HP by 80%, cuts your MP by 30%, and your strength by 40%. However, it doubles your agility and resilience and teaches the most powerful abilities and grants full immunity to all ailments and elements once fully mastered. And this was the first time you had a charisma stat in the game, allowing the characters to compete in a fashion show. The charismatic stat is the style stat, and it was a best dressed contest. So, yeah. Not too much else to say about this. I mean, they introduced a monster arena, but only slimes can fight. But nothing too else to say. So let's move on to Dragon Quest VII, Fragments of the Forgotten Past. This game came out in 2000 on the PlayStation, and then released on the 3DS in 2016. For North America, 2013 in Japan. This is the 7th installment of the Dragon Quest series, and what we're currently streaming right now on Fridays. Let's see. It's the first in the series to not be part of a larger trilogy. It was the first main series Dragon Quest title to be released outside of Japan since the release of Dragon Quest IV. The last DQ title to be released in North America with the Dragon Warrior name. So this game follows the hero and his friends as they discover secrets about the mysterious islands surrounding their isolated home of Estar, the only landmass in the entire world. Through some ancient ruins, they are transported to the pasts of various islands that used to exist and must defeat evil in each new location. We're not going to look at the plot because we don't want to. So Dragon Quest VII is best known for its immense playtime. Without completing its side quests, a single game of Dragon Quest VII can take 100 or more hours. The main flow of the game is different than other Dragon Quest games. Instead of exploring one large world, the party goes to separate continents by placing stone shards into their appropriate pedestals in the Shrine of Mysteries. Once all the missing shards are located and placed for a particular pedestal, the party is transported to the trap location centuries in the past. After solving whatever problems plague the region, the party then travels back to the present. From there, they can travel via boat, carpet, or some other way to get to a modern version of the location they just saved. These saved lands appear on the main map, although the originals from the past can only be revisited from the ruins. So, obviously, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 different characters you can have. Yes, there are 6 different party members in this game. Well, characters. I don't know if they're actually party members. Let's see. Joins the party. Yeah, no, we might have a total of 6. You have the hero, Kuiper, Maribel, Ruff, and then 2 others that we have not found yet in the game. So, exciting things. So, let's see. This was the first time they marked the total play time next to your save file. This game was the first time it introduced the ability to change your message display speed and audio settings from the start. They moved that from the start screen to the in-game menu. You can now buy all items in bulk. The Big Book of Beasts made its debut, displaying monsters' actions, EXP total, gold total, number defeated, and what items is dropped per species. They added a mimic for books as well. The contents of Bookshelf has been embellished with hints for the areas, anecdotal stories, and bad jokes can be found in several of them. Characters typically move and gesture while speaking, making it easier to tell whom is talking. So, yeah. Meh. Don't really care too much about the rest of this, but, yeah. Here, we'll talk about this. Some changes they made when they made the 3DS version is they added a radar system to make finding the stone shards easier. New character stationed in the Divine Shrine has also been added that gives players hints to finding them. You can do streets pass to get stones, to get new dungeons and things. You don't really need to do any of that. You've got party member appearance change immediately upon switching vocation. Party member appearance also changes immediately for monster vocations, which, by the way, there are monster vocations. Weapons and shields are displayed in battle. Some of them are animated. Vocation rank requires fewer battles to advance. That's nice. Spells and skills for second and third tier vocations are only usable within that class, given the last part of the main game for more balance. And oversimplification and rebalancing of which vocations get which skill, eliminating the hybrid skill system. Rude. It is nice. So, yeah, that's 7. Let's move on to 8. Dragon Quest VIII, Journey of the Cursed King, came out originally on PlayStation 2 in 2004 and was re-released on the 3DS in 2017. This is the 8th installment. Wow, this has literally like nothing to talk about. I don't want to talk about the plot too much because the plot is so good. Especially these later games where the plot is literally everything. Let's see. Here, yeah, I'll read a little bit. So Dragon Quest VIII begins when the evil jester Dol Magus steals a magical scepter from Trodian Castle. With this powerful scepter, he transforms the inhabitants of Trodian into plant-like statues, as well as changing the king into a toad-like monster and the princess into an horse. It's an horse princess. The hero, a young Trodian guardsman, is the only resident to remain uncursed. Accompanying the cursed king and the horse princess, he hunts Dol Magus in hopes of restoring Trodian to its former glory. So yeah, you've got 4 original playable characters in the original game, and then of course you had other characters that show up like King Trode, Princess Medea, the Horse Princess, Marcello, Sir Leopold, Domegas, and Lord Rapthorn. So, for some player conveniences, random encounters have been suppressed as long as the party is on a road. So, in the original game, it was random encounters, not like you can see the enemies on the map and you ram your face into them to get into a battle. It was random, but if you're running along a road, you could not get a random encounter. There's an auto map feature in the dungeons, incomplete maps of all towns. The locations and contents of chests are marked on the map. Also, it's possible to browse the inventory of the shops while looking at the town map. All items now have specific icons and illustrations. Players can now select how long they wish to stay at an inn, changing the time of day. In the event of a full party wipeout, all characters are automatically revived at the last church the game was saved at. Let's see. They introduced alchemy here with an alchemy pot, allowing you to combine 2 or 3 items into a new one. And this was the first time they introduced a skill system in which players gained skills as they leveled up, which they could then put into numerous different things, such as their different weapons they can use, as well as an unarmed and a special system for only them. This also introduced the tension system, where you could have you rise yourself up into super tension to deal more damage on your next hit. But, yeah. Let's see. Here's some trivia. 8 is the first and so far only entry in the main series to begin with a battle sequence. That is true. The very first thing you do in the game, you start off fighting a slime. 8 enjoyed a relatively smooth development process compared to its peers, being the only game to never be delayed after the initial announcement. Let's see, you have some character appearances that show up. For instance, you've got Ragnar, Healing, and Tarneko who show up in this game. Other things, you also have 2 hidden characters who join your party in the 3DS remake that weren't in the original. So, yeah. Moving on, now you've got Dragon Quest IX, Sentinels of the Starry Sky. This game was released in 2009 in Japan and 2010 in North America. Let's see. 9 continues the traditional turn-based combat with a few modern twists. Allows you to have cooperative wireless multiplayer experience up to 4 players. So you could actually play with other people. This game is highly customizable with different faces, skin colors, weapons, and armors. 3D graphics, similar to that of 8, was also on here. You could use the touchscreen for inputting commands, as well as a real-time map. This also had the return of the Patty Party system, where any allies you created through Patty. You could choose a base vocation. This also had the All Trades Abbey, where you could go to acting through different things. You could go to All Trades Abbey to change your vocations, level all that. You had the basic, the advanced, all that, similar to the others. This was also a very long game. Not the longest, but pretty long. This also had many open-ended mini-quests with a quest log and everything. So, yeah, not too much extra to say about this. This is one of the few that people really don't like. It's kind of long, kind of boring to some people, but it's quite fun and very customizable, in my opinion. So here's one game I know literally nothing about, Dragon Quest X. It's an online multiplayer game for the Wii. Released in Japan only. There's no English translation for it. And it's never been ported out that I know of. So I literally know close to nothing about it, but I'll read the gameplay information on here. So Dragon Quest X is the first game inside of the numbered titles that breaks the Dragon Quest tradition of turn-based combat. The combat becomes more action-based by breaking the order of attack. Includes a quest-like system similar to 9, but with some changes. Quests serve as side stories, helping not NPCs around the game's world. Multiple quests can be performed simultaneously, with even some interlocking and unlocking various stages and fellow quests. Early quests include gathering magic spring water, slaying monsters, and stealing for a fellow thief. Dragon Quest X contains many open-ended mini-quests. Yada yada yada. There's a Fire Coliseum and a Magic Labyrinth. Fire Coliseum allows the player to challenge some storyline bosses that are modified to be stronger, and the Magic Labyrinth is similar to Grottos, which is just randomized areas where you just go down and find things. So you have highly customizable characters with different faces, skin colors, weapons, armors. It allows you to be different races. Well, it included different races like human, ogre, weddy, pucklipo, elf, and dwarf. I don't know if you could actually be them. You have rental partners that can be recruited for up to 72 hours. You could have cooperative online play with up to 4 people. 3D graphics similar to DQ8. Real-time map like DQ8. Time-limited events. Fully customizable house. A beach resort similar to The Sims. Like I said, I know nothing about this game. Unfortunately, it seems fun, but I don't really know. But anyway, and now we will get to the most recently released of the series, of the main series, Dragon Quest XI: Echoes of an Elusive Age, released in 2018. Originally released on the 3DS and PS4, later came out on PC for Steam and on the Switch. It was planned as the 30th anniversary title. It has an homage in celebration of the 10 games that came before it that tells its own distinct story. It's really cool, and we'll definitely be playing that again on stream. So the story of the 11th game turns tradition on its head and sees the Luminary on the run soon after the beginning segment. He obtains allies as well as enemies in a greater conspiracy that revolves around the origins of Adria itself is slowly uncovered. You've got a nice ragtag group of characters. I'm not going to discuss who they are. Some are surprises, some are not. You've got some new games. So you have an alchemy system referred to as the fun-sized forge, which you forge weapons, and you can get better stats on your weapons if you do well in the minigame. However, even if you fail the minigame, you still get the base weapon and the base stats. Players can catch up on current and past events at any time by looking at the info section. The mini-map on the overworld will highlight the direction where the next plot point is. You can use zoom even inside. There's a camping system that allows the players to stop and heal, speak with their allies, reallocate skill points, purchase items. You can ride a horse. And other things. Yeah, there's just so much to do in this game. I just don't want to talk about it until we get to it. So, that is the 11 main series games. We don't have a... Yes, you can ride a horsey. So, we don't have a lot of time to hit the other games, but there are still 8 games I want to discuss in the next 6 minutes. So, here are some of the side games. Some of them we will play, aka 5 of them. 3 of them we will not. Potentially. Maybe we'll play one of them. So, the first two are a series of mystery dungeon games released only in Japan. They are the Torneko Mystery Dungeon, Torneko's Grand Adventures Mystery Dungeons. It is Torneko Taloon and his Adventure in Mystery Dungeons. If you remember Pokemon Mystery Dungeons, it's just randomized dungeons where every step you take is a step enemies can take, or an action you do is a turn for them to do an action. You're just going around finding items and selling it. Ta-da! So basically, by saving up money, Torneko can improve his home and shop, and yeah. That's the first game. Second game is called Torneko The Last Hope. Exact same thing. You're going through mystery dungeons, leveling up, trying to support his wife and son and everybody else. You just go around and go through mystery dungeons. Now, let's go to the real game that I think you're going to want me to play, which I did plan on playing, which is Dragon Quest Heroes Rocket Slime. It's a side game in which you play as the slime Rocket. It's a cute little single-player game. You gotta go around rescuing all the slimes that got captured, and you have giant tank battles. It's very adorable and very, very, very punny. This is an action-oriented game. It's not an RPG. It's kind of like a top-down view of the game, and it's interesting. I've seen a speedrun of it. Definitely something I'd play once, so. Now, here's a game that I am slightly familiar with. Have never played, but it's Dragon Quest Swords, The Masked Queen, and the Tower of Mirrors. This is a game released for the Wii. It's a spin-off. In this game, it's a first-person action, and you use the Wiimote to fight with your sword and your shield. So you can block with, like, the, with the nunchuck, and then you gotta slash with the remote and everything. So it's something I would be interested in doing if I can get a hold of it, as well as if I can get the Wii to work. But yeah, it's interesting in that you're actually doing things, and obviously it's a step away from the normal. 4 more games to go. I own 3 out of these 4, and I will buy the 4th if we actually want to. So this one is Dragon Quest Builders. Think Minecraft, but Dragon Quest. So the plot of Dragon Quest Builders is the world of the original Dragon Quest has been plunged into darkness by the evil Dragon Lord. The parallel ending to Dragon Quest. Before the final battle, the hero accepts the villain's suggestion that each rule half of the world. After that, the hero is eliminated and the world is dominated by monsters. The inhabitants have been robbed of the ability to build new things from raw materials. With time passing by, a new legendary builder, which is you retain the power to create and is awakened from their slumber by the goddess, and your job is to rebuild the world. That's Dragon Quest Builders. I mean, apparently there's a lot to do. I mean, it got a score of 83 out of 100. So, not bad. Then there's Dragon Quest Builders 2. Kind of the exact same thing. Just that the first game takes place in the alternate reality of Dragon Quest 1. This installment takes place in an alternate reality of Dragon Quest 2, in which Harrigan raises the cult name as the Children of Harrigan, designed to discourage building and cooking and to ban worshipping the goddess under penalty of death. The player takes the role of the builder, rescued by a mysterious boy named Malroth from the ocean and transported to the Isle of Awakening, a place void of civilization. You must now bring back the world to its former glory by introducing the concept of building. So, once again, you gotta build things. Seems fun. And then finally, we've got the Dragon Quest Heroes series, which is a hack and slash spin-off game, and quite fun, actually. You take place in a peaceful country where humans and monsters live together in harmony until all of a sudden monsters go berserk. humanity is surrounded by monster armies and are starting to go downhill. And then all of a sudden, heroes from other worlds get pulled in, and you gotta save the world with other heroes from different Dragon Quest games, introducing new characters and old characters. And then, of course, you've got Dragon Quest Heroes 2, which is the exact same thing. Humans and monsters live together in peace, and then all of a sudden, war breaks out as the countries, once working together in peace, now all of a sudden turn on each other for mysterious unknowns. And as well, this introduces new characters and old characters from past series, like Ruff. But, yeah, so that is the Dragon Quest series. I know we did one entirely on Dragon Quest Monsters, or Dragon Warrior Monsters, but that's because I consider that its own standalone series and is amazing. This one, you kind of needed to have the Dragon Quest series together to talk about everything else, because they're all so interconnected together. So that's everything we have out for Dragon Quest. Obviously, we've got some new stuff coming out in the future that I didn't get to talk about. There's that new anime, manga, video game all coming out. Well, the manga is old, but they're finally doing the spin-off anime and video game attached to it. And that's coming out this year, next year. I don't remember which would be fun and interesting. But, yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I know I just talked for about an hour. But we got a lot done in that hour. I enjoy doing these, kind of just briefly looking at series overviews. You know, you get to take a look at a lot of games and really just sometimes learn some trivia, sometimes refresh your memory of what happened on all of them. I'm not talking about what I like or dislike of them, because we can do those later. You know, you can be like, hey, you know, what's your favorite games of all those past ones that we've done? You know, what's your favorite Dragon Quest? What's your favorite Dragon Warrior Monsters? Why? We can do that later once we got a bunch of these. But, correct, yes. Yeah, I think I mentioned it during 4, 5, and 6 when I was streaming, that they are the Zenithian trilogy. They're only a trilogy in the fact that they all revolve around a central theme. Like, the first 3 games are revolving around the fact that you are the descendants of the legendary hero. The 4, 5, and 6 are a trilogy because it revolves around Zenithia. Yeah. They are, like, they're not directly connected. It's just, hey, look, this is Zenithia too. You're in the same land, but different. Type of deal. But they also like the idea of, you know, all of them being separate. I mean, when we get back to 11, we're gonna see something in it, and that's gonna, like, blow your mind. Just like, whoa! So, yeah. I think I'm gonna end it here. I need to get some stuff done, and I gotta go soon, so thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Please leave some comments below, or join the Discord, and, you know, let me know what you think about these podcasts, and let me know what you want to see in the future. So, until the next time, everybody. Stay funky, people.